Klaviyo or Mailchimp? It's one of the most common questions I get from e-commerce founders. In this video, I'm breaking down Klaviyo versus Mailchimp specifically for e-commerce brands. We'll compare features, pricing, ease of use, and I'll tell you exactly which one I recommend and why. No fluff, just the honest truth. All right, let's get into it. Mailchimp versus Klaviyo, right? So Mailchimp is very familiar, it's cheap to start, and it's literally everywhere, right? You see this ESP everywhere that you go. Klaviyo is the best for e-commerce, but costs a little bit more. It's the e-commerce choice. It's pretty much the gold standard of e-commerce email marketing. The real question though is which one is actually better for selling products online, right? So if you have a Shopify store, WooCommerce store, BigCommerce store, what have you, which one is actually going to serve you better, right? And so the first thing that we'll compare is the e-commerce integration. So we'll talk about Klaviyo first. So Klaviyo has a native Shopify integration. Literally all you have to do is click one button and you can integrate it directly with your Shopify store. It'll pull in all of your customer data, all of your orders, all of the browsing behavior pretty much in a span of an hour. Right? It also works with WooCommerce, BigCommerce, Magento. A lot of brands though these days and a lot of the clients that we work with are using Shopify, and that's pretty much like the biggest e-com platform. But yeah, real-time data sync, and I've actually done this myself a few times, and typically only takes maybe 30 minutes at the most to maybe even up to an hour, but really quick to integrate with Shopify. Mailchimp, the Shopify integration exists, but it is limited, right? They removed the native Shopify integration in 2019 and rebuilt it later. So it doesn't pull in as much behavioral data. And honestly, Mailchimp kind of just feels like an afterthought, like in terms of the e-commerce integration. It's not really what it's known for. And because of that, the winner in terms of e-commerce integration is Klaviyo. Before we get into that, I have a very key free resource in the description. It's a playbook. It's 126 pages long, basically breaking down everything you need to know about e-commerce email marketing in this day and age. I cover everything from like list growth, deliverability, flows, campaigns, pop-ups, everything that you need to know to get your email revenue above 40%. So yeah, go ahead and check that out. It's completely free in the description. All I ask for is your email. Now let's talk about automations and flows. Klaviyo, when it comes to automation and flows, has pre-built e-commerce flows like welcome series, abandoned cart, post-purchase, customer win back. So there's like a flow library that you can just go in. You can simply just click onto the flow library and like build the flow for you, and you just have to fill it in with like the content, copy, design, strategy. It's pretty cool. There's also advanced triggers based on purchase behavior, browsing behavior, etc. These are all different sort of triggers that you can use to trigger specific emails. You can also do conditional splits. So, if you want to do like a random sample of people receiving email A and the other random sample receives email B, you can do that, or just conditional splits just based off of what people specifically viewed on your website. Very easy to set that up. A/B testing is very intuitive on Klaviyo within flows and also campaigns as well. And the flows just feel native to e-commerce as well. Now, Mailchimp, on the other hand, has very basic automations, right? Like these are the automations that, when a brand literally doesn't know anything about email marketing and they just come and they're just doing like welcome series and abandoned checkout, basically what Mailchimp has. Very limited triggers compared to Klaviyo, less flexibility with branching and logic. So it's kind of a little bit more friction in order to kind of get a little bit more personal with like your behavioral splits and your conditional splits and the logic. And the automations just feel more generic and not really, like I said, hyper personalized to where the customer is at in their journey with your brand. And, if you watch my videos, I always talk about how this day and age, email marketing is all about personalization and meeting people with where they're at. And that's why Klaviyo, again, is going to be the winner with automations and flows. Now, next, I want to talk about segmentation. So we'll start with Klaviyo. So Klaviyo segmentation, you can segment by purchase history, browsing behavior, email engagement. So whether or not someone has opened or clicked an email recently. You can segment by geolocation. So according to, what country someone is in, what state someone is in, what zip code someone is in. They even have like predictive analytics. So expected next order date, lifetime value, and even you can even segment based off of the predicted gender based off of their name as well. Segments also update in real time. So if you have a segment of people that are engaged with your emails, well, it's going to be updating in real time. So, the size of the today's segment might be a different size tomorrow based off, new people coming into it and people coming out of it as well. And it's built for just typical e-commerce use cases, right? Mailchimp has very basic segmentation like tags, engagement, location. You have very limited data in terms of purchase behaviors, no predictive analytics. It works, at a very bare minimum, like kind of gets the job done, if you will. But it feels very limited if you have an e-commerce brand that sells physical products that you really need those analytics for. Next, I'll talk about revenue tracking and attribution. I'll start with Mailchimp first, right? So Mailchimp, revenue tracking exists, but it's definitely less robust than other platforms such as Klaviyo. It's very hard to attribute sales to specific emails. The dashboard is focused on engagement and not revenue. And the e-commerce reporting feels kind of just bolted on, right? It doesn't feel like it's actually native to the platform. Klaviyo, on the other hand, shows revenue per flow. So you can actually see, literal breakdowns of revenue per flow, per campaign, per email, even revenue per recipient as well. And you can clearly see like open rates, click rates, place order rates, conversion rates. And it'll also tell you like where you can improve things and like how you compare to other people in your industry. And that's what I love about Klaviyo, by the way. Like one of the biggest things that Klaviyo has, as an e-commerce brand is that when you connect your store to Klaviyo, it's going to ask you like what industry you're in, whether it be like apparel, home goods, wellness, health, whatever. And then, because Klaviyo works with so many different stores and are integrated with so many different Shopify stores across, millions of different shops and different industries, it's going to know exactly how you kind of weigh up compared to other people that are in your industry and in your niche. And so when it looks at your open rates, it looks at your click rates, it looks at your conversion rates, it actually gives you a benchmark. It tells you if you're poor, good, excellent compared to other people that are in your industry. And so you can kind of see how you kind of compare against them. But yeah, the attribution is very clear to the email channel. The dashboard itself is built around revenue metrics, and it's very, very easy to see ROI. And it doesn't overinflate or underinflate ROI. And like revenue from Klaviyo, like we have clients that use like Triple Whale and other third-party tracking softwares, and the Klaviyo dashboard is pretty more or less, it's never going to be 100% perfect, but it's more or less pretty accurate in terms of how much revenue is being directly attributed to the Klaviyo channel. So I know Mailchimp can be a little bit off with that. So with revenue tracking and attribution, I'd say again, the clear winner here is going to be Klaviyo. So let's talk about pricing for a second. If you're a brand new brand and you're just getting started with email marketing, pricing is a big factor. So I'll start with Mailchimp here. So Mailchimp has a free tier up to 500 contacts. So it's actually cheaper at lower contact counts. Pricing does increase as you grow, just like Klaviyo and just like other major ESPs do. Some features get locked behind higher tiers, which is kind of unfortunate. And you kind of have to pay for more in order to unlock certain things. Klaviyo, on the other, is free up to 250 contacts. It's a little bit more expensive at every tier, but you are paying for e-commerce specific features. So if you're an e-commerce brand, it's all going to be worth it to you because you're going to have access into features that you wouldn't otherwise have and things that are going to be actually, useful in terms of making, really important decisions for your brand. And from what we've seen and from what I've heard with working with clients too, the ROI usually covers the cost difference fairly quickly. So my honest take is that, Klaviyo costs more, but if you're doing real e-commerce revenue, the extra features pay for themselves. And, to be honest, if you're a brand that's just getting started, I would say it's probably worth it. Even though Mailchimp has a free tier up to 500 contacts, Klaviyo is only up to 250 contacts. You have to think to yourself, right? You're not just going to only have 500 contacts. If you're an e-commerce brand and you're serious about growing, then you're better off and you know that eventually you're going to have, 1,000, 2,000, 10,000 contacts. You're better off just starting with Klaviyo to begin with because it's a big hassle to have to, well, first of all, you can't even, once you build everything on Mailchimp, there's no such thing as migrating all the flows over. You can migrate the contacts over, but you can't migrate all the work that you've already done in terms of like the copy and the design. So you're better off just building everything from Klaviyo from the ground up, having confidence that you're going to scale your brand and, using Klaviyo in the long term. So the winner just depends on your budget, but, Mailchimp is cheaper, but Klaviyo is definitely the better value. Next is kind of the ease of use. So Mailchimp definitely is very beginner friendly. So if you're not very tech savvy, it's going to be very easy for you to kind of navigate through because they have a very, very simple, it's less overwhelming for first time buyers as well. And it's very good if you've never done any sort of email marketing at all. Klaviyo, there is a slightly steeper learning curve. Whenever I speak with potential clients or clients of mine and they don't really, they don't really go into Klaviyo very often and they're not really sophisticated when it comes to Klaviyo. It can be very overwhelming because there's a lot of different sort of menu items and dashboards and charts and things like that. So the learning curve is slightly steeper, but to be honest, maybe I'm a little biased because I've been using Klaviyo for 10 years, but yeah, I really don't think like the learning curve took me that long to kind of learn and navigate through the platform. Honestly, the more impressions that you have with Klaviyo, the more that you see it, the better, the easier it is to use. And that's just like anything in life. More features equals more to learn, obviously, but it's excellent for documentation and templates. Klaviyo has a lot of free e-commerce templates that you can kind of use and kind of model off of your brand. And once you learn it, like I said, super, super. If we're just talking at like face value, the ease of use, the winner is Mailchimp because it's great for beginners, but I'd say Klaviyo, if you're a serious e-commerce brand owner, it's worth it to learn Klaviyo. Even if you're going to have someone manage it for you, it's worth it to just get Klaviyo and kind of learn the ins and outs and just look at it at a high level so you can understand what's actually happening with your email channel. So when Mailchimp makes sense, Mailchimp might be the right fit if you're not running an e-commerce store, if you're a blogger, creator, or a service-based business, or if you just need to send simple newsletters or just, newsletter, like one-off newsletter blasts, like, once a month or twice a month, or if you have a very tight budget and less than 500 contacts, then I would totally recommend, if you have one or more of these that are true, I would say you're better off just using Mailchimp anyways, right? Because it's going to be a lot easier to use. It's going to be a lot. When Klaviyo makes the most sense to use is, number one, if you're running an e-commerce store and you're a serious brand owner that's running on Shopify, WooCommerce, BigCommerce, Magento, etc., then Klaviyo is perfect for you. If you want advanced automations and flows that trigger at the right time, the right message to the right person, then Klaviyo is the right fit. If you care about revenue attribution and making sure that revenue is tracked properly, or if you're serious about email as a revenue channel, or if you have a Shopify store or like an e-commerce store and you actually plan to scale and you plan to, obviously get more subscribers as you scale your business, if one or more of these things are true, I highly would recommend Klaviyo. Klaviyo makes the most sense at any stage in your business, whether you're just starting or whether you're established and you don't have any email marketing in place at all. So the verdict is, if you're running an e-commerce store and you're serious about making money from email, then just use Klaviyo. To be honest, the integrations, automation, segmentation, and revenue tracking are built for exactly what you need. And I'm not just saying this because I use Klaviyo. Like, honestly, this is just like my, as unbiased as possible opinion, because I used to use Mailchimp a little bit in the past just to kind of see how it worked. But for e-commerce brands, Klaviyo is better. Again, like I said, integrations, automation, segmentation, revenue tracking are all built exactly for what you need. Mailchimp is a great general tool, but it's not built for selling products online. And that's just kind of the simple truth of it. So hope this was helpful. Hope this could help guide you in the right direction overall. So that's the breakdown. If you're running an e-commerce store, Klaviyo is clearly the better choice. The Shopify integration, the automations, the segmentation, it's literally built for what you need. Mailchimp is fine for newsletters and just general marketing, but for selling products online, Klaviyo wins hands down. If you haven't grabbed the email revenue playbook yet, by the way, it's 126 pages long, covering the 4 pillars of e-commerce email that you need in order to succeed with your emails. That's list growth, deliverability, flows, and campaigns. All completely for free in the description. It's a lot of value jammed in that book, so go ahead and download that for free in the description. And by the way, if you do want someone to kind of handle all of this for you so you don't have to worry about email marketing ever again, that's literally what I do for a living. So there's also a link in the description to book in a call directly with me in case you wanted to kind of chat about your email marketing situation and kind of just talk about how we can help and sort of our done for you service. So yeah, link is in the description for both of those. I will see you in the next video.